Hi, my name is Aya, you're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to do my book haul. So I have over 30 books to show you guys. So let's get started. This is a different setting, mainly because I should have filmed earlier in the day, and now the sun is just having a party in here. And since in this spot the sun is behind the camera, even though it's still up in my grill, it's it's better than if I film in front of my bookshelves, because that was just not working out for me. So let's get started. The first two books I got were actually two different editions of the same book, and it's Caught Up by Liz Tom Ford. So the reason I got the male cover this time is because I read this right around the time it came out, so this was still available for me, whereas when I read The Right Move, Ryan's cover was already not available for me, and this is the one that is like the regular UK edition, so I bought both of them. I really love this book. I already read these, of course. Caught Up is the third book in the Windy City series, and you follow Kai, who's a single dad and in need of a nanny. No nanny has ever been good enough for him, but now his coach forces him to take his daughter as his nanny, so he does, and he's very reluctant because he thinks that she's not very responsible, but he gets to know her, and then he ultimately falls in love with her, and I really love this book. Very glad I got both editions of this book. June 1st by Jennifer Hartman. So this was recently traditionally published, and it was very highly discounted, so I bought it. I pre-ordered it. This, I believe, is about this guy who was adopted when his father killed his mother, and right around the time that this new family took him in, they also gave birth to their daughter. And while they were growing up, he was very protective of her, and it was basically his mission in life to make sure that she was taken care of, and then eventually they do fall in love. So it sounds pretty taboo because it does sound like they grew up together, because he was only 6 when he was adopted. I read one Jennifer Hartman and I did like it, so I'm very interested to read more by her. Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. So this is a special edition. And to be honest, I don't really know why I bought this. Not that I don't like Shatter Me, because I do, but I've only read it once. I've only read that series once, and I never really had the urge to reread it, which I usually do. I usually have that urge with my favorite books, and with this one I just never really. I am afraid that once I reread that series, it's not gonna hold up as well as it did back then, but I do really love this edition. It is gorgeous. Maybe I will reread it one day in the future. But I do also want the original covers in hardback. Maybe I should search for those. But until then, I have this one, and it's very pretty. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is the first book in her, I forget the name of this series. But the second book is Wildfire, and I did read Wildfire for the Goodreads Choice Awards, but I never read the first one, so I bought it, and the plan is to read this one at the beginning of the year, so the first 3 months of the year, so that I'm all caught up when the third book comes out. This series follows different members of the hockey team, and I'm pretty sure this one is the only one that really revolves around hockey heavily. You follow a hockey captain and a figure skater. Her partner left, her figure skater partner, so now she needs another one, and I believe Nate volunteers. It sounds cute. This was pretty hyped last year, or in 2022 when it came out, but I never really picked it up. But since I did love Wildfire so much, I'm very interested to read this one. Then I got Bloody Heart and Broken Vow, and this was just like with June 1st. This was pretty discounted when Bloom picked it up for traditional publishing, so I snagged them. I now own pretty much all of the books traditionally published except for Stolen Air and Heavy Crown, so those are the only ones I'm missing. But these are the 4th and 5th one in the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. I already read this series, and now I'm just collecting them. Basically, this is a series of mafia children, and this book you follow the oldest Gallo son and his second chance romance with Simone, who is the one that got away, and it's also a secret baby. And this is a bodyguard romance. You follow Riona Griffin, who's, I'm pretty sure she's the oldest or second oldest Griffin child, but she's been targeted, and somebody's trying to assassinate her, so now she needs a bodyguard. And Dante in this book, who's her really close friend, he asks his military buddy to be her bodyguard, and that is Raylan. So it's their love story, and I really love these two, and I'm very glad to own them now. Own them physically. The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I bought all the new covers for this series, and the only one that was missing was The Deal, so I bought this one recently. I also own this in another edition, but I really love these ones. I think they're very cute. This one I also already read, and I really love this book. This follows Hannah and Garrett, and Garrett is flunking this class, and the only one that's not flunking is Hannah. So he asks her to tutor him. She doesn't want to, but then he notices that she has this crush on this football player, so he thinks that this football player will notice her when she's seen with him because he's a very popular hockey player. So they make this deal where she'll tutor him and he'll fake date her. But along the way, they become very, very good friends. And he actually also helps her with a problem she's been having sexually. So it also becomes like a teach me type scenario. And I really love this book. It's one of my favorite books I read in 2023. So I'm very glad to own this edition now too. Another one of my favorite books I read in 2023 was The Frat Boy. This book I basically just needed for my collection. I wanted to own every book that was my favorite in 2023. This is the fourth book in her Nashville Neighborhood series, and you follow these two college students. They have a problem when they get in this big, huge mud fight during this competition between the fraternities and the sororities. So they both get kicked out of their respective fraternity and sorority, and now they need a place to stay. So they both separately answer this ad for adult movies where you can earn money but also have a place to live. And their first audition is actually with each other. So they basically have this like hate fucking session, and they both get hired, and now they live together at this adult film company. So now they live together at this house and making adult movies together. It's so hot, but so good. I really fell in love with the love story as well. Like I said, it's one of my favorite books I read in 2023, and I'm very glad I own it physically now. Obsession by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this book I read years and years and years ago, and honestly, and to this day, I never really stopped thinking about it. I never reread this book, and a part of me thinks I might not like it as much as I did back then, because back then it was like the first adult romance I read, so I was like blushing and kicking my feet at the time. And since then, obviously, I've read more adult romances, so I don't know if I'll love this as much as I did back then. Basically, you follow, this is an alien romance actually, and it's tied to her Lux series. But whereas that one is young adult, this is most assuredly adult. And you follow this woman, she's in danger. This alien species is hunting her, and now this man from their rival alien species is tasked to protect her, and then they fall in love. This I remember really loving. I did start reading the Lux series, but I never really had an urge to continue on with the series, whereas I did really have the urge to reread this multiple times throughout the years. So maybe I should do that, just reread this one, and if I really loved it, maybe it will prompt me to get back to the Lux series. And yeah, let me actually see when this was published, because I know Jennifer L. Armentrout obviously became very popular again with her From Blood and Ash series, but she has been writing paranormal romances for years. So this was published in 2013. Let me actually see when I read it. Yeah, so I read it in 2013 as well, so it has been 10 years. So hopefully this year I can reread this one. Then I got the rest of the books in the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver. So I already owned Photo Finish. I believe I bought that a couple months ago. And these people covers are gonna go out of print, so I just snagged them. My plan is to read them this year, but I just think the other covers are so ugly. So when I saw that these covers were back again for a limited print run, I just decided to get them. So off to the races, Out of the Gate, A False Start, and The Front Runner. So this is loosely tied to the Chestnut Spring series with Photo Finish because she's Harvey's daughter, so she's the Eaton sister. And we actually saw all these couples in Powerless, which is my favorite book in the Chestnut Spring series. So I've been interested to read this series. Well, first of all, because I do love Elsie Silver, and my plan is to read everything she has ever written and will ever write. But also because I was intrigued when meeting them in Powerless. So yeah, the plan is to read this series this year, and I cannot wait. And I'm very glad I snagged these editions. An Island Princess Starts a Scandal by Adriana Herrera. This is a female-female historical romance. It's actually the second book in a series, but I'm going to be reading this one for my top 10 diverse romances that were published in 2023. So this one was published in 2023, and I'm very excited to read this one. Stars in Your Eyes by Kaysen Calendar. This is a male-male romance about these two Hollywood actors. Once again, I'm planning on reading this for the same video. I'm going to be reading An Island Princess Starts a Scandal. Yeah, so one of them is a bad boy Hollywood actor, and the other one is a new golden boy actor, and it's their romance. Very excited about this one. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. This is a story set in Syria, and you follow this girl who becomes a nurse at this hospital. But then this figure, who's a hallucination of the horrors she's seen, every day he comes to her and tells her that she needs to leave Syria, and every day she refuses until she meets a boy with vivid green eyes who also wants to stay. I don't know. I just heard amazing things about this book. I know a lot of people really loved it in 2023, so I'm very excited to read this one. Butcher and Blackbeard by Brynn Weaver. This I've been hearing so many good things about, and a lot of people really love it. Basically, it's a serial killer romance. Both of them are serial killers, and they're also rivals in a way. Every time they usually pick a person they want to kill, and I believe they're like Dexter, like they're actually bad people, and they have this game of whoever gets to them first. I heard it's both sexy and funny and gruesome, and say less, honestly. And a lot of people that I trust really seem to love this book, so hopefully I will too. Sweet Vengeance. This is a alien romance about this woman who, she summons this alien because she wants to get revenge, and then she falls in love with this alien. It's very short, and once again I heard amazing things about it. The Fianc Fars by Alexandra Bellafleur. This is a fake fiance story. Once again, a book I'm going to be reading for the top 10 diverse romances published in 2023. Only for the Week by Natasha Bishop. This is about this woman whose sister is getting married to her ex. So now she's at the wedding and people are just looking at her and seeing if she's gonna freak, basically. But then she actually has a romance with the best man. So she's gonna fall in love with her ex's best friend. So sign me up any day of the week. I cannot wait to read this one. And once again, I heard amazing things about this one. We Could Be So Good by Kat Sebastian. This is the male-male love story set in the 1950s. And obviously it wasn't legal to be gay back then. So it sounds like it's gonna be heartbreaking, but also it's gonna be heartbreakingly beautiful, I'm pretty sure. And I really fell in love with this cover, so very excited to read this one. The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This is a love story between this woman who used to write to this author that she really loved, but then he all of a sudden stopped talking to her, and then they actually become neighbors, so it's their love story. Full Metal Alchemist Volume 5, so I'm slowly collecting these volumes as I read them, so I already read this one. This is the 5th volume in an 18 volume, I'm pretty sure, manga series. Basically, you follow Alphonse and Elric. They are alchemists, and Alphonse lost his entire body and Elric lost an arm and a leg while trying to bring back their mother, and now they're on a mission to get back their bodies, and along the way they meet people. And I am really liking this manga series, and this one was a good addition to the series. The Rest of the Story by Tel Bauer. This is a male-male hockey romance, and this hockey player, this older hockey player, gets transferred to a team that's basically the worst team in the NHL. And once he gets there, he realizes that this team has been suffering very much due to like coaching staff and stuff like that. So basically he's gonna save this team, but also fall in love in the meantime with one of the hockey players. And it sounds good. And I know a lot of people really love it. It was a lot of people's favorite books they read in 2023. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. The only reason I bought this one is because I know this cover is gonna be out of print soon. She's been picked up by a traditional publisher, which is good for her, but I do think, I saw the new cover and I wasn't that impressed by it. I prefer this one, so I just snagged it before I couldn't anymore. This is about these two people. One of them has a hand that is underdeveloped. Like she has a very tiny hand, and he is an amputee. He has an amputated leg. And they meet each other at this Halloween dress-up party where they're both dressed up as pirates. And then they have a one-night stand, but she gets pregnant from this one-night stand. And once he finds out, he moves her in at his house, and they decide that they should just be friends and leave it at that. Even though they did start off with a one-night stand, it eventually, I believe, becomes a slow burn romance. And I heard so many good things about this book, and I am very excited to read this one. I just wasn't planning on reading it this soon, but I needed to get this cover, so that's why I bought it. For Real by Alexis Hall. This is a older book by Alexis Hall, and I know Jen really loved this book. And she always said this cover was not the best, But online it looked fine, but now looking at it, it's really not the best, but that's okay. This follows another male-male romance, and they are in the BDSM scene, and the older man, he's a sub, but he's been pretty fed up with his life, and he just doesn't want to do that anymore until he goes to this, like, his regular club, and he sees this younger man who is obviously a dom, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. So he reluctantly agrees to teach him, and it becomes like a sub-dom dynamic, but the sub is actually teaching the dom, which I love those dynamics. So I'm very excited about this one. I have been interested in a while now, but now I just bought it and hopefully I can get around to it soon. The Coldest Winter by Brittany Cherry. This, I believe, is a student-teacher romance. And I've been hearing amazing things about Brittany Cherry. I know her books tend to be very sad, but I don't know, I just am very excited to read this one. The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. So this one I actually read for the first time this month in January. But I fell in love with this book. It is one of my favorite books I read this year so far. I know that's not saying much because it's only January, but I do have a feeling it's gonna be one of my favorite books of the year. So I needed it. So this is a dark historical romance. You follow Farah and Dorian, the Black Heart of Benmore. And when she was younger, when she was 8, she met this boy named Dugan at this orphanage. Something happened to her where one of the priests there almost assaults her, so Dugan actually kills him, and because of that he gets sent to jail, and 10 years later he actually dies in jail. So Farah decides to live her life as Dugan's widow, so she takes his last name and she's living as a widow all these years. So she works for the Scotland Yard now, and Dorian, who's a very known criminal, gets arrested, and he ends up kidnapping her actually. And he tells her that he used to know Dugan in prison and he's out for revenge and he needs her to get that revenge. So yeah, it's their romance and I really loved it. It's a dark historical romance and I loved every single line in this book. I fell in love with this book and I'm very glad that I own a physical copy of it now. Then I got Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I was never planning on reading this book, honestly, but I need to read this for a video, so I bought it. I do really love this cover though. This deals with rich socialites in London, which is not my favorite thing to read about, but we'll see if I love it. I do know that this does not have an HEA, and I'm pretty sure their second book also does not have an HEA, which is also something I'm not that big a fan of, but we'll see if I'm gonna love this as much as a lot of other people seem to. And last but not least is one that is different from all the other books. It is Een Schitterend Gebrek by Arthur Japin. So this is a Dutch book, but the English translation is actually In Lucia's Eyes. This one I read when I was still in high school, and it was one of my favorite books I read for high school. Usually I hated those books that we needed to read. So, and I have been needing to reread it. And there is this little free library right next to my parents' house. And I usually just dump books there, but I never really find books that interest me. Until this day, I found this one, so I grabbed it. It was free and I'm very excited about it. Basically, this tells the story of one of the only women that Casanova fell in love with. I am not your Casanova, that one. And she then, I believe she gets the plague or something. I don't know, something happens to her where her face is very disfigured. So she moves to Amsterdam and becomes a prostitute there. One day she meets him again, but obviously he doesn't recognize her. And I just remember really loving it. I don't know if I still love it once I reread it, but I'm very happy that I own it now and I didn't pay anything for it. And we'll see if I still love it. So yeah, those were all the books I bought in the last couple of months. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you've read any of them and what your thoughts were. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day and I'll talk to you later. Bye.